Transformation can happen in an instant. And transformation can be a long, sometimes arduous journey. So transformation is a lasting and sometimes permanent, important, substantial, profound change. Transformation is the process of undergoing such a change. It's a noun and a verb. Transformation can happen in an instant. And transformation can be a long, sometimes arduous journey. Transformation happens in a blink, in a catastrophic and traumatic or ecstatic and joyful moment. If you're of my generation, you most likely remember exactly where you were and what you were doing when you saw or heard about the planes flying into the World Trade Center on 9/11/2001. If you're of a generation older than me, you probably remember the time and place and what you were doing and how you heard it when you learned John F. Kennedy had been assassinated. Or when the people land on the moon and walked on the moon for the first time. If you're even older than that, maybe you might remember when you heard about Pearl Harbor or the atomic bombs being dropped. If you're younger than all of us, I don't know what it is that's marking your transformation as a generation, but I'm sure there are things that you could pull out. The moment of a diagnosis, love at first sight, death of a loved one, winning the lottery, a natural disaster, pandemic illness. Transformation can happen instantaneously. There's a line in the sand, a date on the calendar, a happening that separates the before time and the after time. The way things were from the way things are now. Some transformation that happened in instance in my own life were my mom telling me my parents were getting divorced. My son being born. My aunt selling my grandparents' house in Mattapoisett. The Red Sox winning the 2004 World Series. My aunt called me in tears right as the last out happened. She laid a rose on my grandfather's grave the next day. He never got to see it. Prostate cancer diagnosis. Meeting my wife Tuesday at a clergy association meeting. If you have to think about a moment, an instant of transformation, it wasn't one of those moments. You know what yours are already. You could list them just like I did. Transformation also happens over time. And sometimes it's a long, wonderful, eventful journey. And sometimes it's a long, complicated, tedious, horrifying expedition. Training for a job. Becoming a champion professional athlete. Writing a book. Getting a degree. Starting a profitable business. Mastering anything. HTML coding, meditation, yoga, dance. Cooperative efforts usually experience this type of transformation. Becoming a team, gelling as a team. Doing a research project in sciences or the humanities. Transformative journeys in my own life have included being a father and a son and a brother and a friend, being a teacher, being a minister. The ordination was an instant transformative moment, actually learning how to do this just keeps happening over and over and over and over again. It's a big, long, transformative process. If you are on a journey or have been on a journey of transformation, you are well aware of how deeply that journey has changed you. And I believe transformation is why churches, congregations, exist. This is why we're here. Churches, mosques, temples, all forms of religious community. We exist to transform. I also believe transformation is the purpose of the arts and the sciences, of knowledge, of games, and just about all human activity. But for today, especially congregations. Take a look at our congregation's mission: building a community centered on love, encouraging spiritual growth, advancing justice. Each of these are areas of endeavor that provide ample opportunity for transformation. Indeed, they are all things that call us to engage a process of transformation. Building a loving community, a community that actually practices kindness and compassion and support and working through difficult situations and disagreements. That's an ongoing journey that requires active participation and a willingness to be transformed by all of us who are members. This is what makes Unitarian Universalism religious. You can be spiritual on your own, but you can only be religious in community. If your goal is to be spiritual but not religious, you're in the wrong place this morning. Encouraging spiritual growth. That's the heart of what a faith community does. Any religious community worth its salt and worth belonging to will transform your spirit, your heart, your soul, your humanity, and your life. We provide a variety of opportunities for you to engage different ways to transform yourself. We have yoga classes that happen here. We have small group ministry. We have this Sunday morning. We have thematic resources. We have social justice work. We now have a membership team and pastoral care work on that team. There's lots of ways to engage things here that will change you if you actively participate in them. So much so that if you have been with a community long enough, you may not even notice all the transformation that's happened within you or that's happened to the community. You may be too close to catch it all. You have to step back to see it sometimes. Advancing justice is a mission that is intentionally transformational. Whether it's educating ourselves and others about injustices in the world and what we can do about it, or taking action in various ways through advocacy or direct service or protest, forming relationships and partnerships with others in the community to create a more intentionally accepting and welcoming community. We engage a transformative process. Justice works because we seek to make a change, a measurable, noticeable, valuable change for good in the world. Congregations engage two essential actions in the transformative process. Congregations gather and send. We gather people intentionally to be transformed spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, socially, individually, and in community. We gather to transform ourselves. And then we are sent from here into the rest of our lives to transform the world because we have been transformed. That's what we do here. We gather and send. We transform ourselves to transform the world. It's a strange and powerful thing, transformation. You can define it like I did this morning, but still not nail it down as to what it's really like to experience. Educator Robert Keegan says, the emotions and experience, the gratitude or the terror associated with transformation are very different from what transformation actually is. All those things we associate with being profoundly changed don't always tell us what that change is, how it works, how we're different. And I think we've proven this true over the last 2 years here in our congregation. We have truly been on a profoundly transformative journey here the last 2 years. COVID-19 transformed this congregation powerfully and not for the better. COVID-19, for all its destruction and death, almost killed our congregation. We came really close. We had more than our fair share of people who, for whatever reason, had a really difficult time during COVID-19. For many and various reasons, personal and family and work, physical and emotional health, dealing with the isolation. It was just a whole lot for more than our fair share, I think, of people here. 2 years ago at this time, 2 years ago this spring, I was having conversations with 3 of the lay leaders here on how to come into the annual meeting and shut this congregation down. If you're newer here, that may come as a really big surprise. We were that close to shutting the doors here. But it's not what happened. One reason we were preparing to shut down was that a combination of an aging congregation and health issues and emotional issues and personal issues and work issues and the pandemic left us with no one coming forward to step into leadership roles. So I worked with a couple people to rewrite the bylaws here so that you didn't need a team of 7 leaders on your board, you needed 3. We now put up to 4, but 2 years ago we made it 3. And we didn't know if people would come forward, but they did. Nancy Burton and Janet Hiller stepped up at that annual meeting, and whatever called to you, whatever spoke to your heart, is a big reason we're still here. Talk about a profound transformation. Wow. There wasn't enough money 2 years ago at this time to pay me to come back. But people gave. And some of you gave a lot. Thank you very much. And give still. And we realized that 3 leaders on a board were not going to be able to do all the work needed to run a congregation themselves. So they did something revolutionary. They didn't try to. They pared down what they worked on so that what they took on they could succeed at. And they did. And they led the whole congregation to pare down what we worked on at any given time so we could succeed. And we did. We began to emphasize that although it's important to make a financial contribution to the congregation, it's coming up to that time of year again, so you'll be hearing shortly. But almost more importantly, we also started really talking about in a serious way about really figuring out what time and energy you could give to the congregation so that we could make accurate plans of what we could accomplish so we wouldn't overreach, overstep, and do what we did well. And everybody did. Everybody stepped up. COVID forced a lot of changes on a lot of congregations that are usually very difficult changes to make in congregational life, like trying new ways to raise money, or trying new ways of having Sunday morning services. By the end of COVID, we were like, sure, what do you want to try next? And that's not the way this congregation or most congregations were behaving before COVID. So that transformed us in a profound way. We realized that we couldn't do everything we once did and be successful. So we intentionally let some things go. We still don't have a formal religious education program. Now, partly that declined and was let go due to demographics. But demographics, oh, don't look now, they're starting to finally shift the other way again. And more religious communities are reporting more and more parents and children starting to give them a shot again. We hung in long enough that we can try again. And it will transform. When I arrived here in the fall of 2019, my first 6 months was spent working with a team that was tasked with facilitating a process to get the congregation to take a look at its current status. How is it doing and where did it want to go forward? And presented the congregation with a couple of different ways we could go forward, different plans, different philosophies, different approaches. And the way we've been going forward was not the way we picked in the winter of 2020. What we've in a sense been doing for the last 2 years is rebooting, restarting. Our congregational life together for the last 2 years has been more like people just starting a church brand new than it has been continuing on a long history of a congregation. Although that's what we've done, we have as much in common with what I would call, say, a new church start as a very aged congregation. We have the luxury of bringing along some of that stuff with us, but we really engaged a process that was more like community organizing. We had lots of conversations here. Our 3-person board 2 years ago realized they couldn't and would not try to take on doing everything themselves. And so what they tried to do was include everyone in some level of steering the ship, which is why we've had 2 years now of monthly congregational conversations. Not meetings, not votes, just talking with each other, sometimes facilitated, sometimes more open, about where we're at, what we're doing, what's going to happen. This restart, this reboot here, has been an amazing transformation. One of the things that we've done very successfully is we've started to change what it's like to be involved in leadership of a congregation. Traditionally, congregations have a hard time recruiting leaders because lots of times people feel like you're being recruited to take on all the stress and where the buck stops, and everyone will blame you if something goes wrong, and you'll come up with all the ideas. And we flipped that. That's no longer how we work. And I would dare say, and you can all correct me if I'm wrong, who are out here, it's actually fun doing our leadership work. I love meeting with the team. I love meeting with the board and the worship associates and everyone else. I actually enjoy it. Now, you may think, well, ministers are supposed to say that. Well, no, you talk to a bunch of ministers like, oh, I got to go to the whatever meeting. Like any other job it gets to be eventually. Boy, the last 2 years here have been completely different like that. It's so much more energizing. It's easier to stay positive. It's easier to be creative. It's easier to be myself. It's really a profound difference in the way many congregations of any size work. You should be really proud of yourselves. It's amazing. And going forward, we've got to think about some decisions that will further transform us. In the coming weeks, I and a couple other people will be talking to you. We're all going to divide up the membership list. We're all going to talk to a handful of people. We're going to talk to you, yes, about making a financial commitment for the coming year, but more importantly, about how it is you can engage what we need to do next. How can you think about becoming a leader? How can you think about being involved in all the different things that are going to be happening, like fundraising and Sunday mornings? And how can you do it in a way that's fun for you, that plays to your strengths, that involves you in a way that fits who you are and things you can do, either by skill or temperament or just, I want to try that. And we're going to ask you to think about that a lot, because it's that next step of involvement that makes doing everything we do here an opportunity to have a good time in community and enjoy working with the folks you're working with, that will make us successful doing what we need to do to grow to year-round fundraising and to do more marketing and to do more outreach to the community and to be ready to receive that next generational shift of maybe parents and children coming back to congregational life. So those are going to be important congregational conversations that will happen one-on-one. That being involved in a congregation in many ways, whether it's Sunday morning or being on a team or a committee, isn't a chore. It should be something that adds value and positivity to your life. That's another place where the positive transformation of being involved can happen. And we've created over the last 2 years such a wonderful atmosphere. It's now time to try and really extend that to not just some of the leadership teams and Sunday morning, but to everything that goes on here. And we're all going to figure that out together by talking it through and really listening to ourselves about how we want to be involved in ways that benefit ourselves and the community. I think if you ask the people on the Social Justice Committee here if they like doing their social justice work, they're going to say yes. It's part of who they are. They like doing that. If you ask the membership committee people, have they enjoyed doing the stuff of the membership committee this past year? I think they're going to say yes. If you ask the worship associates, we're not as hairy now. We have a couple new people. It's great. I think we're having a lot more fun, but we like doing this. You know, we want to make every area of the congregation like that going forward. And that leads us to the other transformation that's going to need to happen going forward. And this is a big one. Another transformation that we're going to need to do intentionally and focus on is generational change. In the past, in the pre-COVID times, congregations, including ours, were very slow to transition leadership to newer and younger people. Congregations always talk about wanting new members, more members, but have also traditionally, here and pretty much everywhere in faith communities, we're slow to kind of give away the power and authority to the newer and younger people. If we are to continue this amazing transformation that we are doing, we're going to need to be intentional about making a generational shift. And we're going to need to think about how we start to put the needs and priorities of our newer, younger members first. And that's going to require both a letting go of running the congregation in some ways on the part of some of our older members, people who have been here a longer time. But it's also going to require the taking on of some of that leadership and vision among some of our newer members. The baton is going to need to be passed, and it's also going to need to be picked up. As we go forward, we need to kind of center, as we plan and make our priorities, the kind of congregation, and I'm going to name names, that Candace and Sarah and Terrence and Chris and Kim and Branson and Tracy and Christy want. because just purely demographically, they're going to be here longer than us. And so we have to create a place that they're still going to want to be at 10 years from now. It's not that our desires and some preferences don't count, and I don't think any of them would say that. But we want your input. We want your vision. We want you to contribute that idea, that dream. Because it's our job to build what you want this place to be 10 years from now. That you'll still be here 10 years from now. And that takes a lot from both ends, you know. The journey of any lifetime, whether it's an organization or a person, accumulates a lot of stuff along the way. As my favorite theologian, Bruce Springsteen, says, I always picture the life journey as a car. All your selves are in it, and a new self can get in, but the old selves can't ever get out. The important thing is who's got their hands on the wheel at any given moment. And our job is not to let Jesus take the wheel, but to let Candace and Sarah and Terrence and Christy and Tracy and Branson and Chris and Kim take the wheel. And we'll be there. At first, we'll be there like the driver's ed teacher who had the brake also on their side of the car. So they won't be doing it alone. They're not going to be left out there, just wing it. We gotcha, but we also want you to start to pick where we're going and help us see why we need to go there and let us help you go that way. I think sometimes about what my role might be. This is my 5th year here. I've been here 5 years already. Boy, COVID warped time a lot, I tell you. It's my 5th year ending here this spring. 5 full years. And more, I start thinking about who's the minister here after me. Not that I'm going anywhere right away, but I'm starting to think about as a way to form my goals and what I need to work on for myself. Who's the minister here after me? And I got this odd picture in my head of a full-time, atheist, transgendered person of color. About the polar opposite of me in many ways. But they're here all the time. Yeah, it could be like that, and we never know. Although some people may say, you've got that, we're the minister already. Nothing else can go amiss.
Can you show that again?
Behind you, too.
But that one or that one?
No, it's behind you.
Behind you, over here, those cameras, there you go. But I've been starting to think like, what's my job now to serve this community the best? And maybe it's to get ready for the person who comes after me, whether that's in 4 years or 14 years, that's the next big step. And at that time, I really want that person to be here with that's their only job. And there's enough people here, enough going on to justify that. If I can help us get to that point, that would be my big goal. That would be awesome. And given what we've done in just 2 years, I see no reason why that can't happen by the time this run is done. Huh? It's been 3, yeah. We're going to get there. Everyone's going to stay in the van. We're just going to let some new people start driving and starting to pick the destinations. And you know what? They'll probably use the GPS on their phone. Thanks a lot for watching this video. It would help me out a great deal if you liked the video to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others. Maybe ring that notification bell so you can be informed when we put out other videos like this. Check out my website and blog at tonylorenzen.com for even more resources that will open your mind, touch your heart, and inspire your spirit.